Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible and all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young and I'm one of your duplicitous, shady hosts. Joining me as always is our other duplicitous and shady host, Beth Martin. Beth, the pleasure as always. What's the crack?
Sounds like, I know you said shady,
Yeah.
but it sounds like you said shitty.
Or duplicitous.
You're duplicitous and
shitty
shitty.
That's better. Let's go back. I'll take that again. I'll go with shitty. I really kind of set myself up for a fall there with duplicitous twice too. Like I really did. I'm just asking for trouble with that.
It's true. Way to go. Way to fail right off the
right?
get. Yeah.
I know.
Uh-huh.
Yikes.
So
yeah.
I realized I never actually finished The Queen's Gambit.
Uh-huh.
Because I was like, maybe I'll do a rewatch. And then I was like, wait a minute. There's like however many, like 7 episodes? I only thought there were 5 or whatever. So I missed the last 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So I like binged the whole thing in the last few days. And I was just like, I'd never seen the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Like her strolling, and now I'm gonna, okay, if no one's seen The Queen's Gambit last 2 episodes, you can stop, put your little earmuffs on. But like her, like, number one, I kind of wanted her to be a druggie and a drunk the whole time,
mm-hmm.
and not like find redemption there, because it was just like such an interesting part of her like lifelong story and character arc, or whatever. But I did like the ending where, she like wins the thing, beats the Russians, and then she's walking through the park. She gets out of the car with the federal employee that's like, you need to just do this and go on the show and la la la. And then she's just like, no, I'm going to walk. And he's like, you're going to miss your flight back to the United States. And she's walking through the park and all of the old men are sitting there in Russia, like playing chess. And they're all like, oh my gosh, Liz, Liz Harman. And then they ask her to sit down and play with them. And I was like, that's like, there's so few perfect endings to shows. And I was like, because like, right, it's like Game of Thrones, everyone's like, argh! And this was a good one.
I
agree. If you haven't seen it, I just told you the ending.
But though, like, there's plenty
it came
more.
Out 2020. So come on.
Yeah, exactly. Get your shit together if you haven't seen Queen's Gambit.
Don't be shitty like Andy.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be a shitty duplicitous. Oh no,
I did, but
I got it right the first few times, and now
New
I'm going
York.
back to
Unique New York.
New York.
know you need
Duplicitous. There we go. I got it.
Say it like an American.
No, never. Over my dead body. I love my American accent, which is something we're going to touch on at some point, at some future episode.
I know.
I love that show, and I mean, like, I think it completely made me fall completely head over heels in love with Anya Taylor Joy as well. Which is for better or for worse.
It's true, and I watched it, and I was, because I've been ragging on her. I know, I realized that, and I was like, Beth, look at where she came from. Look at what that, and that really was what I think probably put her on the map. I know she's done a lot. So. And she's also in all these animated movies. I didn't know that, but she's got that deep voice.
Yeah.
And it works so well for voiceover work. So
it's true. Yeah. She was in so there was in the interim between Fox being bought over by Disney, there was a New Mutants movie made. Do you know of this?
No.
And it was sat on the shelf for about 5 or 6 years, and they eventually kind of just gave it a half-hearted movie theater release. And she's in it. Mm-hmm. So but she filmed it whenever she was not really that big a name, mm-hmm. and she's playing a Russian. So there's Ilyana Rasputin, I think.
Oh, really?
So she's playing this Russian character who can open portals. Called Magic, who's a mutant and an X-Man, and
I think I might have seen this.
Yeah, it's kind of like a horror thing. It's set in it's almost like a sort of institution, I guess, but an institution for mutants. And also Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones is in it, as Wolfsbane, etc., etc. But like I think her voice worked really well with the Russian accent. This is back to Anya Taylor Joy, and this was another thing I remember watching and going,
she's good.
okay, she's one of the best things about that movie, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I guess all to say, you were right and I was wrong.
Yes. Still live in this moment for like 30 seconds or so.
I know. So what's the crack with you?
So like over the past week I have been kind of wrapping up some of the pet therapy stuff that I've been doing. So like, you know, just finishing off for the end of term. I'm not entirely done. I'm actually doing I'm not doing pet therapy, but I'm doing some yoga classes for one of my schools this week. So not entirely finished, but finished with the pet therapy for the year. And one of the places that I was doing pet therapy is a smaller, more rural primary school. I think I've talked about it before on here.
Yeah.
And they, due to how things are going in this country, they kind of like the amount of pupils that they had were dropping off. I think they ended up, the entire school had 36 students in the end,
wow.
which is not much for a school. And they were applying for funding, and they were trying to get a few kind of different sort of statuses to kind of help them kind of continue on. But they only got news at Christmas, around Christmas time there, that they were not getting the funding anymore, and they were being closed at the end of the term. So they were having a sort of like a final sort of big bash day where, you know, they were inviting parents and the pupils and stuff there, and they were having like all events and things like that. And they asked if I wanted to go along, so I brought Sash up, and we stayed. You know, I'm busy as always, sadly, yes. And I stayed for like about 45 minutes or so. But it was really bittersweet, you know, because like I really loved that school, and they were great people, great kids and stuff. And it was lovely to see them all again. But it was also kind of like weird. I've been going there for like nearly 3 years now, you know, yeah. And like knowing that like I won't be back, you know, and it won't exist. Like I was asking, you know, where the rest of them are going, and it seemed like a lot of them had at least new roles and stuff to go to, but the building, they don't even know they're going to do with it, you know. It's just, and like schools are like, other schools are coming in to like go through their stuff and see what they want, you know. It's just, I don't know, it was just a weird situation, you know, but it was lovely to see them all again, you know.
So enrollment dropped, where did the kids go?
Like there are primary schools would also be what I guess elementary schools for you guys. So like yep. There are other larger ones. Like so like you mean this school is, or this village is maybe a 10-minute drive from my town, and my town has a ton of primary schools. So a lot of them are going to those because I guess they're larger, they're probably better resourced, you know. So I think that's just what was happening, and I think the argument they were making was, especially for these smaller places, and I guess this is happening worldwide, like that school was such an integral kind of part of that village, you know, it was the heart of it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, you know, it may have repercussions in terms of, you know, how the village will be in the future and things like that. So it kind of sucks, but it's unfortunately the way these things are going these days.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
it's weird too. It's like I worked for a school that got actually bought. It was a private school, but it got bought by a corporation, which I didn't know you could do. But
oh wow,
yeah. So it was like, it was owned by my friend's mom, and you know, I worked there in high school and in college, and then she sold it and retired, but like the corporation came. It was like, you know, corporate takeover, but in a school setting. It was super weird, and it was like all the teachers were worried that they weren't gonna have a job, and then, you know, it was a cute little school that went from like pre-kindergarten, pre-K, I don't know what that is for you guys, but through like 8th grade. And they had a swimming pool, so like we taught the kids how to swim, and they filled the pool in, like the corporation like filled in the pool, and like got rid of there was this cute little old lady that made everyone like snacks and lunches, and like I would go in and help her, and they got rid of that, and they had like delivery come in, and it was just like, I kind of know what you're talking about in like a weird way.
Yeah, I think like it's just I suppose a symptom of how this world's going and things like that, and
Yeah.
but yeah, but and that's definitely sad news, but I'd say bittersweet news perhaps. But I have some excellent news.
What?
Last week, I had a new feature that I had said was irregular. Good news is we've got it 2 weeks in a row.
Ooh,
Oh yeah.
lay it on us, Andy.
Once again, this is Andy's Down with the Streets. My irregular feature. I wasn't allowed to call it a semi-irregular feature because that was a hat in a hat. So this one, and I like it, and I want to ask Beth a question to see if she can figure out what this is that I'm talking about. So, do you know, if I was talking about a Yota, what I would be talking about?
Can you spell, please?
Yota?
Y-O-T-A?
Y-O-T-A, yeah.
Yoda. I have no fucking clue.
So I'd get into my Yota and I'd drive away.
Oh, you're a Toyota.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you heard? I don't know if you've heard that one. It's the first time I've heard that abbreviation for Yoda. Somebody talking about getting into a Yoda.
Yeah. So people will actually. So you have the word Toyota on the back of the car, and they'll take the OTA away, so it just says toy.
Way.
Mm-hmm. Or they'll take the TO away, so it just says Yoda. Yeah. Yeah. So it's totally a thing.
Okay, I didn't know it was a thing. Okay, this is just a new piece of news for me. Like,
if it was me and I actually have a Toyota, I'd just do OYO.
Wait, I like it. Yeah.
And people would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I'd be like, "Don't."
I just don't think that's a thing people do over here. I think they'd be like, "No, damage my car." How could
no, it's
I?
like,
I
yeah,
it.
It's like it's like a, not a cult, but like if you have a Toyota, it's like you're in with the people that have like, yeah, they've got like the snorkel. Do you guys have snorkels and budding? Yeah, like that kind of crap.
It's like, I think I told you about before in that John Wilson show, and he was behind a guy who essentially had I can't remember, it was some sort of flatbed truck, and he had like a stack in the flatbed truck that took up about a third of it that was just spewing out extra fumes. So like, he saw him pull over at like a petrol station and tatted him and asked him about it, and he said, "Look, can I come and talk to you a bit more about this?" And went back to the guy's house, and it was really funny because the guy was like talking a bit about it, and like you could see in real time as he explained it, him knowing how disgusting it was, how ridiculous it was, and like he could not possibly justify it. And it was really, because like John Wilson was technically interviewing him, but he was saying nothing. He was just letting the guy talk and like just hang himself with his own rope.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
car culture.
Oh man. So yeah, but that's Andy's Down with the Streets for this week. As I say, it may return. It almost certainly will. But as a surprise, it's the best way.
Yeah, just like today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like hanging on with bated breath to see what.
Yeah.
How hip you are.
Yeah. I mean, they already think I'm pretty hip now.
I know.
Right? I can only go from here.
Anything else? Cracking?
I know no more what's a crack, but do you have any what's occurring?
I do. I just want to remind folks that we have merch on our website that I'm going to be updating.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time this comes out, I will have some summerish type of merch. So just go to our website at bendypodcast.com and feel free to buy obscure things that only Bendy listeners would know about.
Amazing. Do it.
Just gonna a shirt that says Yoda.
Yoda Squad. I guess I have a bit of feedback on one of our past episodes. My friend reached out to me and he was talking about, he was listening to our episode. We were talking about challengers, and he was saying that his Luca movie that kind of that he had a similar reaction to you with challengers was Bones and All. How he had seen Call Me by Your Name, thought it was a masterpiece, and then expecting some similar from like Bones and All, was kind of quite disappointed with it. Have you seen?
I saw Bones and All. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's Armie Hammer and Timothy Chalamet, right?
No, Bones and All is the second. No, so Call Me by Your Name is Armie Hammer.
Bones and All is Timothy Chalamet and Taylor. Mind Garden me, Andy.
I'm on it. Hold on.
She's dating or was dating Harry Styles, and it's a cannibalism movie.
Taylor Russell.
Russell, right? So yeah, I did see it. I did like it. It was kind of like, I guess, of the three. Now that I've seen, now that I'm a connoisseur, I would say my favorite is still Call Me by Your Name. But I did like Bones and All more than I liked Challengers. So if you had to rank, you just got to see it.
Okay, I think I need it. I will definitely watch it. It's
time.
Definitely high on my list at the minute. Like I did watch. So like the podcast I'm listening to is covering Martin Brest at the minute, and so like he's not a director I really think of, but then you go through his like list of movies and you're like, wow. So like he directed the first Beverly Hills Cop, he directed Midnight Run. He then did Scent of a Woman.
Scent of a Woman.
But like,
didn't he win Best Picture?
Sorry,
I think Scent of a Woman won some awards.
I think it did.
Oh, also the masterpiece Geely.
I was gonna say that's how that ended his career, and I mean what a fascinating career arc, you know. So they're going through it at the minute. They just covered Midnight Run, so I rewatched it and it was great fun. It's such a good time.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it really was.
Geely, though. I watched Son of a Woman last year for the first time, and I was like, I love Al Pacino.
Yeah.
I just do.
It's been maybe 30 years since I've seen it, so I barely remember it. But yeah, I remember enjoying it at the time. It's like really, it's got some nice, really kind of big Pacino, which is always fun.
Yes. He's aging like a hedgehog. Like that's what he reminds me of when I look at him. And like, granted, he's just an attractive human being, but like now is like an attractive human being that looks like an elderly hedgehog.
You know, if you're gonna age into an animal, hedgehog's not terrible.
It's not.
Not a terrible one.
Do you want to jump into our topic?
Yeah.
Or are we gonna just not actually talk about it at all, and people are gonna be like, "Those lying liars! They didn't even talk about lying."
So, I mean, that would be the perfect, rug pull to talk about an episode about lying, and then be lying about that.
Yeah, or talk about honesty, and then they'll be like, "Are they lying though?
Are they? Why are they lying? Are they though?" So this episode this week is about lying. It's called Lying Liars, and we're just going to talk about lying. It's just something that I was thinking about recently, and like how kind of omnipresent it is through like all of life. And I felt like it would be good to have we chat about it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, was it like political stuff? Not that we're going to get into that, but was it like what brought it to the forefront of your brain? And
good question.
This is a good topic.
I don't remember what it was. I think it was probably I think I know what it was. So it was something that occurred to me, like a piece of behavior I observed in myself, which is that I will often lie about things in like white lies about things in my own life if I want to escape judgment, right? Because an observation that I have had just in terms of my life is that I see a lot of people who get judgment, especially guys, and I'm thinking of a lot of guys that I know or have known. If they get judgment, it's kind of greeted with an "oh yeah," like what's this sort of thing. You know, it's like you think I'm like this, actually I'm like this, and kind of maybe pushes them a bit harder. That's just kind of based on my like surface level observation of knowing people and stuff. Whereas when I get a judgment, a lot of the times how my brain processes it is by going, you see, you know that real world proof that you're looking for.
Gotcha.
This is it.
Jesus
So
Christ, Andy.
yeah, I know it's not good. Like, but so like that is why I kind of oftentimes will be like, so something that I lied about recently was that I, backslid on my weed smoking thing for like a couple of sessions, and I know that I can talk to you about it, I can talk to certain other people about it, and they won't like judge me for it, but I know other people will be like, well, I thought you had stopped smoking weed, you know what I mean? And that would just be very kind of demoralizing for me, honestly, and I'm just like, I don't need that. There's no value in it for me.
So do you lie or do you just omit?
If I'm asked, it depends who's asking, of course. But like if I was asked directly, I would flat out lie and say no. I've stayed the course.
Yeah. That's okay.
I'm here. I know. I like.
Yeah, I know. You know.
I'm kind of like I don't really regret that or doing that, because I just kind of know how I kind of have to like protect myself in a way, and it's like it's not like I'm doing it over anything that's going to hurt anybody else. It's purely for my own sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what kind of made me think, oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting topic to talk about.
Mm-hmm. And you were noticing, I always love like self-observation where you're like,
yeah,
you put yourself out of yourself and you're like, well, this is interesting. Right? Like,
yeah,
like roll that around a little bit. So
yes.
So in general, like, what is your stance on lying?
I mean, I think I'm in the Casablanca camp. Like some little white lies are probably essential to like
the
maintain
Casablanca
sanity,
camp,
right? The way he tells a beautiful lie at the end. Because I like like I think that like I mean my sort of opinion is that like truth is often brutal and fairly unforgiving, and I think a lot of people have an idea that they want truth, but they don't really. What they want is like something with a truth equality, something that like sounds like it might be true, but just kind of reinforces your own prejudices and things like that, and kind of keeps you safe and comfortable rather than challenging anything in any major way.
Mm-hmm.
What about yourself?
I'm a Libra. Mm-hmm. So that means I want everyone to get along, and I mm-hmm. want there to be balance and peace in the world. And so I think, though there's two sides of that, I guess, like the me that's me and me that's not like parenting tiny humans. Mm-hmm. Like I'll omit information, or I don't actively like go out and like I'm not like, oh, I'm totally gonna go lie about this thing, but I'll definitely
sure.
If I notice it with myself when I like don't want to do something, or if I'm like I don't want to go do this event, then I'll lie and be like, I won't just be like, hey, yeah, this doesn't sound like something I'm into. I won't say that. I'll just be like, no, I'm sorry, I have other plans, or we've got dinner plans that day, and like it's not true at all. I just don't want to do the thing, but I don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. So that's when I tend to lie, is when like I feel that someone's gonna, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings or make them feel a certain way, and then it just like comes out of my mouth.
It's like equal protection for like both you and for other people, sort of thing.
Yeah, and it really has to do with like doing stuff.
Yes, I totally hear you. And like I think that my attitude with that a lot of the time, because I have like got into trouble with that before, in terms of like I have been like, here's my excuse, and people are like, okay, how can we like get around this excuse? How can we like deal with this issue that you're having so we can still get you to come?
Yeah.
So now, and I've only adopted this over in the past 4 or 5 years, I'm basically like, sorry, I can't make it. Bye.
Yeah. And that's really that's all they need. They don't need more than that. Right.
And it makes life so much easier, you know. So like, and I'm definitely much happier adopting that position, because it just keeps things cleaner. And like, but because like, I think, and again, you know, I am, again, guys in my life I have known as well, all too often kind of want to kind of solve things. Do you know what I mean? So like, if you kind of tell them what the problem is, they're like, okay, how can we solve this problem and get you here, sort of thing. And I'm like, no.
I don't want to go.
I just don't want to go. Leave me alone.
So then I have the side of me that's the parent, right? Mm-hmm. And trying to teach honesty in my kids.
Yeah.
And that is like obviously they always know where I am and what I'm doing, so I can't lie about that. Do you want to play Legos? Sorry, I'm busy. Like, doing what?
In the middle of something. You're looking at your phone. You're like, yeah.
So, like, trying to raise truth tellers.
Yeah.
Is kind of my MO, and I hate it when they're old enough that they're starting to like actively lie about things, silly things like, did you brush your teeth? Yeah. All right, let me smell your breath. Oh, I forgot. Right? Did you wash your hands? Yeah. Oh, let me feel them. Oh, I forgot. Right? But also like starting to be bigger things. You know, I hid candy in my room. You know, so I'm trying to, and like, as we know, like, small lies become bigger lies.
Yes.
But I also think it's a learned behavior where you tell a small lie and you get away with it. And then you're like, well, can I tell a bigger lie and get away with it, and tell a bigger lie and get away with it, and tell a bigger lie and get away with it. So, like, in the house, I'm just like, we don't lie. We always tell the truth. And, like, with the kids, and, like, I'm just like, and I wish this was the case with everyone, but our party line is, if you tell the truth, you won't get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you extrapolate that, right? And you're like, what if that was just the case in our culture? Yeah. Like, if you told the truth, you wouldn't get in trouble.
Yeah, that's... that would be very interesting. Like, it would be so nice, you know, but, like, it's just, yeah. And I mean, obviously, you know, there'd be some issues with depending on the severity of the lie, or depending on the severity of the act that was being lied about as well.
Right.
Like, I think as well, what's interesting with kids especially is that I think you're 100% right, and certainly, you know, the kids I deal with and stuff like that, I'm, you know, very much the same. But like, you know, there's things like, you know, belief in Santa Claus and things like that, which is like a bit of kind of magic, and that's a lie, right? But it's also kind of a lie to kind of like prolong the kind of magic and the kind of innocence of childhood, you know. So I think that's it's good overall, you know.
I have friends that have never told the lie and have always been like, oh, it's this made up thing that people believe in. And like, hard party line right there is like, we don't lie to our kids, and like, you know, so we tell them the truth about all the things. And I'm like, it's different for everyone, but having been one that believed in Santa Claus, like, it's so great.
It is.
It's the coolest thing ever.
It is.
And like a tooth fairy, and the bunny rabbit never quite made sense to me, because it doesn't make sense.
And he doesn't give you any good loot either. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I mean, maybe you get like an egg or something, but it's like whatever. Yeah. But like, do you, like, with the tooth fairy, is it the same for you guys, where you would put the tooth underneath the pillow and then you'd wake up and it'd be, we would normally get money? I don't know if that's the same. Yeah,
you get money. And like, when I was a kid, it was like a quarter.
Yeah.
But now it's like, you know, inflation. So the tooth fairy gets like, I know, right? It's just an IOU.
Yeah, an IOU, yeah. Like,
I owe you $100 in your college fund. Love the tooth fairy.
I owe you one Yoda.
You turn 16.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's you know it's so interesting, and you know we had ended up in the setup sort of to come into this episode, we ended up talking about this a little bit, you know, and like how. And I think we're kind of like, as a society, starting to pay the cost of it now in terms of like how much lying is going on in terms of the people that lead us and things like that, you know, and politicians generally. And like, I think both the UK and the US have had politicians who've been like, whoa, actually nothing matters. I can just say whatever I want and it doesn't, you know, people are going to believe it. And I think that's kind of it's, I suppose, like, it feels like there's and certainly in my opinion, there's almost like a social contract to lying, that there was certain, you didn't kind of go past a certain point, and I feel like the doors have kind of been blown off that in the past like 10 or 20 years, you know, which has set a dangerous precedent, I think, you know.
I think I've said this before, but the term that I hate the most, I think ever,
Uh-huh.
is fake news.
Yes. It's a
which
bad
is
one.
which is lying.
Yes.
It's not fake news, it's just flat out lying. So
Yeah.
like, but it, like, roll it a different way, spin it a different way, and then it's, you know, it's not as bad or
Yeah.
something.
Yes. And I think that there's so much of that sort of rebranding of like fucked up positions that it's like, oh no, actually, this is whatever. I'm not going to get too deep into this because it's like, I feel like it could keep getting to dangerous ground. But like, I know that, you know, certainly you do see a lot of that, you know, in recent years as well, whereas it's like, there is something that is bad and it is almost universally seen as bad, like certain concepts and things, and as I say, they've just, you know, taken a shiny new coat of paint and and what was old is new again, and it's still somehow mainstream and acceptable. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And yeah, again, like, I absolutely agree. I also think a lot about history, and I've always kind of thought of history and like history books and like the retelling of things. It's just gossip, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like this story
Yeah.
about like Alexander the Great and blah blah blah, and it's like the reasons, like, but all of that, like all of what we have, started off as oral tradition.
Yeah.
And like, do you guys play the game Telephone? Have we talked about this?
I don't think I know that name, but I don't think I know exactly how it works.
So it's a children's game where you all sit in a circle, and one person thinks of like a word or a phrase and whispers it to the next person, and then they whisper it and whisper it, and then the person sitting next to the person that started the word or phrase says whatever has been repeated in their ear, and you find that, you know, it could be like 5 or 10 people. It's completely different. So I think of that in terms of like even the things that we've been taught and like taught to believe, and, you know, why things are the way they are and who these people were and why they matter. And it's like part of me is like, really, how much of this is lies?
And like, you know, embellishment, like, you know, like juicing up stories and stuff like that certainly isn't a new thing. So it's like, it's almost certainly was happening thousands of years ago as well.
Of course it was.
You know,
so it's like, it's all lies, Andy. It's all
Is.
lies. Everything.
All of it.
Oh, it's all built on lies.
But I think,
it's built.
You know,
but it's built.
This is true. It is built, and there's still, like, you know, there is some structure, and there is some, you know, there are facts exist. I think, you know, there's some provable stuff, you know, and like, I think even if, you know, some people don't believe that certain facts are facts, they you know, there is some quantifiable stuff out there, you know. But yeah, it's such an interesting one. I like, what I was thinking when I was kind of putting this together as well was that, like, you know, I think it, you know, goes back to what we were talking about, and like, you know, I was talking about the Casablanca thing. I think, you know, lying can also be like noble. It can be decent. You know, it can be the right thing to do under a certain circumstance. You know, I think it might even be morally correct, depending on, you know, whatever you think morals are. but you know what I mean? It can't be the morally right thing to do under certain circumstances as well. And I feel like that is so at odds with how most of us think about how the world works, you know? And whenever like everybody's kind of trying to like self-police that, it's like, I don't know, you just don't know where the lines are drawn anymore. It's a weird one.
Do you have any examples?
I'm going to go back to my Casablanca lie. Where it was to protect somebody's feelings and their life and their kind of, you know, vision of how the world works. I'm sure I could think of some modern stuff. I've been thinking about Casablanca too much, I guess. But like I'm sure there are other kind of modern ones. You know, like I see stuff that where it's like, you know, trying to see if people's feelings or you know, there are, oh no, that's maybe a wee bit too dark, but like I feel like there's a lot of people that are kind of told news about things that are going on to loved ones to kind of reassure them and keep them in a kind of stable place, you know. And I think that's I think that's overall the best way to deal with those things, you know.
So
it could be quite...
so here's an interesting one. So I just watched a documentary. It's called 30. Netflix is doing this thing. It's called 30 for 30.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Okay, so they did one on Lance Armstrong.
Yes.
Who created he created probably the most robust cancer association nonprofit that's like Livestrong, right?
Yes.
It is still a thing. So out of, you know, someone that won the Tour de France 7 times and lied about, you know, everything and what he was doing and all of that, yet he was able to bring out of those lies in America, no one, I mean, outside of a few small group of people, knew what the Tour de France even was, right? Or knew that cycling was a thing. And cycling became very popular in the United States because of that. And so it really highlighted the sport. It also highlighted the need for cancer research. And so it's like, I think the hard thing is that a lot of times, like out of a lie or several thousands of lies, good things actually can come. Yeah.
And I think that is, that's a really good one actually. And I think that is like such a, you know, and it makes the whole subject such a difficult one to get like any sort of, you know, clear-cut instructions on, you know. Like the one that I had thought about, and it certainly wasn't a noble lie in terms of like how far a lie can go, because I think I was probably last year, I can't remember the name of the series, but you know Elizabeth Holmes who opened Theranos.
Yes.
Well, I can't. You know, there was a show. I can't remember what the show was called, but anyway,
it was with
blood something.
So it was with Amanda Seyfried.
Yes, it was.
So Elizabeth Holmes basically was a tech bro genius as a woman, and kind of went the Steve. Did she even graduate from college? She dropped out. I can't remember.
I think she dropped out, but I can't remember.
Yeah, and then like dressed like Steve Jobs, like in the turtleneck and everything, and then had this idea to create a machine that would take like a drop of blood out of your finger, and then would able to like diagnose you on like 150 different things out of like Walgreens or like, I don't know, like 7-Eleven or whatever you guys have over there. So
and like basically it never worked, and they like went right to the top of it. Like they became one of the major companies. I think I can't remember. There was a blue chip stock or whatever, that sort of like level where it was like billions of dollars of investment and things like that in a piece of technology that never worked. And it's so like interesting how it can get that far, you know, like how
Yeah.
it's crazy to me,
Yeah.
and like how people will like double down, triple down, quadruple down, you know, they'll just keep going rather than actually kind of like walk it back. And like, I think that's such a particularly like damaging one, because this was to do with people's health. So like it's, you know, it's particularly kind of like dodgy and bad, really, that you're kind of messing with those expectations, and also with like diagnoses, which are like
Yeah.
so key, especially getting them early is it's not good.
No.
But yeah, such a fascinating like, and it's one of those things that I remember, you know, this idea that, you know, especially as we become more collective with the internet and things like that, that it's easier to like fact check this stuff, and it's easier to kind of like catch this sort of thing out, and it really isn't. If somebody is telling you with every part of them that they are telling you the truth, it's very hard to kind of see the reality of that a lot of the time.
Can we talk about artificial intelligence?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I read something the other day where some guy that understands AI far better than I ever will be able to said,
Mm-hmm.
no matter like the most important thing, because it's here, right? It's like, it's not that we're like fighting the idea that of AI as a concept. Like, it's already here. It's like
Yeah.
integrated in all the things, whether or not we asked for it to be.
Yeah.
Can you tell I'm excited about it?
Yeah.
But basically, he was like, you need to fact check your AI always.
Interesting.
So not only fact check the news, but fact check the little helper that's, you know, named Gemini or whatever. Which, like, Gemini, don't even get me started on the idea of why that's a bad name for an AI,
Yeah,
because, you know, Geminis are the two-face. Are you a Gemini?
that's true. That's your boy.
Shit. Really?
Yep.
You're a Gemini?
Everybody's surprised at that. I think like, and it's interesting because I've had
You're not
conversations.
crazy.
I know. Well, I am crazy. I'm just
You're
like
just the right amount of all
nice
the
crazy.
things.
Yeah. I'm
I'm just
aware
nice
of it.
crazy.
You know, like I think, you know, and it's because like I have had, because when you were talking about your star sign earlier, I was going to bring it up because like people have been surprised because like other Geminis they know have been had two sort of like sides to them and can be kind of explosive, and I think that like I definitely do. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like there is, you know, a side of me that I have ended up talking about on here a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like because I feel like there is, and I think I talked about it in relation to the choir and stuff like that, where people had said, "Oh, it's so nice to have somebody so positive and you know, and such great energy here." And I'm like thinking to myself, it's incredible that you see that, because I don't think I'm that person at all. A lot of the, you know, I can say something, you know what I mean? Like, but like that's, so that is, I think, my version of the Gemini thing, whereas I have this outward appearance that is, that people think is positive and happy and blah, blah, blah. Whereas, you know, on the inside, it can be quite the opposite a lot of the time, you know?
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting observation about yourself, because most Geminis, it's almost like, it's not that they, I mean, I'm obviously making swathing generalizations, and forgive me, but um, the Geminis that I have known that have shown their Gemini side, it's very external. Like, both sides are very external.
Oh, interesting.
And yours are very internal.
Yeah, definitely.
Huh.
Yeah. I think like I say, everybody I know who knows star signs is always really surprised when they hear MHM.
Yeah.
And like most of the ones who know that probably know about, like, you know, some of my mental health struggles as well, you know, and they kind of are like, oh yeah, I can kind of, when they think about it a little bit, they're like, oh, I can kind of see it now, you know.
Have you had like a full astrology reading ever?
I don't believe so. No, I have had like, I mean, I've had. My friend asked me, like, I got my birth time.
Birth location.
Yep.
Yep.
Birth location, and she was able to give me I can't remember what it was now off the top of my head, but I have it somewhere. Like, so my actual whatever rising or
and I will say, like, those things do matter, and like we're all the things, you know, like, so, but that's interesting. You're like an internalized Gemini.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a struggle, dude.
Right? So much fun.
But it's so great for the rest of us.
Good. I'm so happy for you guys.
I know. So, back to lying.
Sure.
Has lying changed as you've gotten older?
Yeah, like I think I am, like, you know, I think the sort of the thing that made me that I talked about at the top of the episode that made me think about this topic is probably less common now, but like it's just because it happened and I did it so like automatically that I was like, huh, that's interesting. Whereas you know, I think I just don't. If I like, I think I would have told a lie more often in the past to get out of things or to just, you know, avoid having to have a conversation or things like that. Whereas I think I'm better in terms of setting up boundaries and things like that for just kind of going, no, I don't want to do that, or you're just saying I can't do that, sorry, bye, sort of thing. You know, I'm better at just kind of disconnecting from those things when I need to, rather than going. I think when I was younger, I would have definitely just made up something, you know.
Yeah.
Which never worked out great.
Right.
What about you?
I think I'm better at having truth in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, we can't do that because, you know, the kids have some events happening, and like I can think of like several instances actually where I blame the children. Not really, but probably I think it's more like, oh, we're going to be out of town, but like that's not true. We're only going to be out of town for like a half of a day of like whatever,
yeah.
right?
But like,
so it's like
it's technically correct.
Technically, that's what I'm at.
yeah.
I'm in the it's technically correct, technically the truth, as opposed to like
it's the
yeah,
the amazing meme from Futurama, which is technically correct, the best kind of correct.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen that one.
But that's me.
I'll send it to you.
That's me. Like as long as there's some
correct.
truth in there, then I'm okay with it.
Exactly. Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
That like makes me feel good enough about myself. That
From a certain perspective, this is. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
That's so fucked up.
Absolutely being there. But I don't think it is fucked up. I think it's very common. You know, I really do, and I think it's like it's just. I think about, you know, finding the balance, like all things, right? It's about finding the balance with it. Do you know what I mean? And like not doing it too much, or maybe if you are, maybe like bringing some attention to it and going, huh. In what ways can I minimize this in my life? It's definitely something, and I mean, like, you know, I'm a big fan of therapy. It's definitely something that therapy kind of helped me with in terms of going, like, why am I doing this? Like, why? It's not good for me, really. It's not helping me, and I do, you know, and like I also feel very guilty about, you know, things all the time for like no good reason. So like lying's definitely one of those things when I have lied, and it's like, you know, lying as an automatic reaction, you know. So it has been a useful kind of challenge in those things, and but like you know, I will never. I think it's still sadly, and it kind of breaks my heart that it is still a valuable tool in most kind of adult humans, you know, toolboxes, really, you know, for navigating modern society.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yes. And it's like, I look at I was thinking about it today, and I was like, all right, look at the news and just see like how much of the news is based on lies that have been told. Yes. And like these people are in trouble because of their lies. And it's just like, I would say half of what's out there right now is because either omission. Are J-Lo and Ben Affleck getting divorced? We don't know because...
Oh, please no.
I know, please no. But it's like...
No, please, guys,
I know. But it's like, that's omission, right? They're not telling us what's going on, so that's news. Or, you know, like, Princess Catherine with her cancer. Like, what's going on? Like, we forced that out of her. And that was omission. Or, like... And this is going farther back, but like Rachel Dolezal, did you hear about her?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
She was a white woman that was pretending to be African American.
Yep.
And so like that's a lie that made the news and also made a Netflix documentary. So
like I think one of the most dangerous things I mean, like I suppose it's always been this way, but like I feel like with the advent of mass media, internet and things like that is that like how easy it is to monetize lying.
Yeah.
And
well, and how much we love it.
Scary. Yeah. Like, I think that a lot of humans, not most, but like a lot of humans kind of just want like a beautiful lie, something that kind of absolves themselves of any kind of, feelings of guilt or like culpability. But instead,
there's some religious things I could say right now that I'm not going to.
I know. But instead, blames them on, and like they talk about that's why like in a lot of this stuff. So groups or things that people don't really know too much about often get blamed because you can put all your sort of negative feelings into these things you don't understand because for all you know they might be like this. I mean, like, it's probably not true, but like, as long as you remain willfully ignorant enough, you can like blame all your problems on, throw a dart, that group.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting.
And okay, so have you been around people that consistently lie, and like how did that make you feel?
I had a friend who used to lie, and like I think this is probably common as kids. Everybody really had a friend who like told these like fantastic tales like about things that went on in their life. I was trying to think about this today and I couldn't remember any of his stories in particular, but I had one guy who used to like have the big ones, like having an uncle who like introduced him to a celebrity or got them playing the new Nintendo early, or things like that. And it was things of that ilk, and it was a lot of that sort of stuff. And I think I've spoken to other people who've had a common sort of experiences like that. They've also had friends, and like I think that's almost certainly a bit of a cry for help, and and I think the commonality that I've seen, and I don't think this is the case for all of these kids, is that like kids, single child families, a lot of the times I've seen that more commonly in those sorts of kids, But again, I've met some other kind of kids like that who don't do that.
Yeah, I've been in a relationship with a person that lied all the time, and it was like, and they would be like, "I'm not lying. What are you talking about?" And it was driving me insane.
Yeah.
It was driving me insane.
Gaslighting,
to the point where I was,
and then that's what exactly
literally
what it is.
That's yeah.
And it's yes. I hate that. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's startling, and so what it became was like this quest for truth. So it'd be like actively like digging into things and like looking at things that I shouldn't have been looking at, just so I could like find the truth and be like, I'm not crazy, and B, like, it's feeding that like I'm right, because I wanted to know like where's the line between right and wrong. Am I wrong or am I right? And it mattered because there was no ground underneath my feet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
So I was always trying to like just find something just that I could actually stand on.
Yeah.
So.
And I that pisses me off. I mean, obviously, because it was happening to you, but like it's like that's really fucked up lying as far as I'm concerned, because when you're making people doubt their own sanity, that's a whole other fucking ballgame, like, truly. And like, because especially in those interpersonal relationships, when trust is such a big component of those things,
Yeah. And then I've had people that like would tell these fantastical stories, and I'd be like, there's no way that's fucking true. And then it would be, and I'd be like, oh, you just have that kind of life where like,
like my Carl Urban story, which is real.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think how you can tell, like, I do have some pretty great stories, but how you can tell, I think, is because I don't really tell them too often. I'm not really like, here's my life, but like every now and again I just drop stories and Beth's like, what?
What? And you're like, happened? Oh, I didn't tell you this. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, this thing happened that time. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But like it's so, the other thing, and it was in that sort of vein, and the only one that I remembered when I was thinking about it was I'll get to my question first, was that, can you remember any sort of big lies that you've told in your life? And when I thought about this, I couldn't think of any big ones I've told in my adult years. It's there probably is some, but I can't remember. But I remember, like, as a kid, and I have such a clear memory of this, like, and I must have been quite young, like, primary school age, so maybe 10, maybe 9, maybe 10. And kids in my school, and I think it must have been some topic in school, and we were talking about ghosts and things like that. A lot of the kids were telling like ghost stories, and I remember making up a ghost story and like, I remember clearly saying that like, how lame this is. A tissue came up out of a tissue box and like floated across the room.
That's so cute,
isn't it? So that's the one that really came to mind when I was like thinking about Zero. It. And his name was Zero. Yeah. So yeah, that was the one that occurred to me when I was digging through my brain.
I will say the one I felt really bad about, because I think I was in like middle school, so it was probably like 10, 11, and I was at my friend's house, and their neighbor could drive and was like, mm-hmm. Oh, I'll drive you guys, or like, I'll drive you guys to the store. And my friend was like, oh yeah, and do you want to sleep over? And I was like, sure. And he was like, well, I can drive you over to your house to get your like sleepover stuff. And I was like, okay, knowing that my parents would not be okay with me like driving around with some random high schooler, right?
Yeah.
That they don't know. And so I had them park down the street, and I was like, I'm gonna get my stuff, and like, oh yeah, and my parents could obviously see I was lying, because I can't lie very well without it being completely obvious. So I was like, bye, and my dad was like, I'll walk you to the car, and I was like, fuck, and like he walked me to the car, and he's like, who are you? And I was like totally in trouble, and I was like crying, and it was embarrassing because all my friends were in the car, and like this older dude like that was driving. And so my dad's like, I will drive you back over there, like you can spend the night, but like we're gonna have a serious conversation about this. And I was like devastated. It was just devastating.
Yeah, and like there's no way you were enjoying that night.
No, and he knew it too. He was like, yeah, and here I am 45 or 44 like retelling this story that I'm still like, I feel so bad about it.
Oh, so do I. And this is the thing, and I think that's probably true for both of us. You know, like, and one of the reasons why I don't like, as I say, you know, white lies here and there to protect myself, but like by and large, I do feel awful lying to people, like, and especially on big things. So it's just like I wouldn't. Yeah, and it's also, you know, very much my attitude as I've gotten older in life is to treat people the way I want to be treated, and I don't really want people lying to me very much, you know. So yeah, I think that's informed a lot of sort of my behavior in my adult life, I think.
Same. Yeah, I like you know, there are lots of ways that you could look at this and think about it, but I kind of think of lying in a pretty black and white way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's the truth or it isn't, but then it's like, what's truth and what's like then you, and I'm not going to go down that road too far, but I think it's like truth is what you like, if it feels wrong in your stomach it's probably not, you know.
That's a good guide, I think. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, if you're starting to feel dodgy about it, then it's not the thing to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that. What's one of the worst lies you were ever told?
That I was ever told?
Yeah.
I may need to think about that. I suppose, you know, and you were talking about a relationship. I think I felt like in sort of one of my past relationships being told, not just being downplayed in terms of like things that were happening that I could clearly see were happening, being told that they weren't happening, and it was very damaging to kind of like my self-esteem and kind of mental health. I think, you know, I struggle to think of like pinpoint anything in particular, but like there was just a load of stuff that really kind of undermined, you know, who I am, I think, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mine is silly. Not really. But I just found out the truth like last year, I think.
Uh-huh.
Or the year before. And I think I told you the story probably off pod, but I had a rabbit as a kid and we went on vacation and the neighbors took the rabbit and were taking care of it. And then I was like, oh, I miss Sugar, the bunny. And my mom was like, oh, honey, I have to tell you something. And I was like, what? And she's like, Sugar ran away. She hopped down the stairs and she ran away while we were gone. And I was just like hysterical and crying. And I've carried that truth with me up until like a couple years ago. And I was talking to my mom about it and she was like, that's what I told you? And I was like, yeah. What happened to Sugar? And she's like, oh, their dogs ate her and tore her apart. And I was like, oh my God.
I don't think I knew that. That's wild.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's how my bunny died when I was a kid.
I think that is the most common like big lie the kids get told with pets, because I had a friend recently and it was she was talking to her mom and her mom just let slip. They were talking about one of their dogs and they'd said I think they had to let him they had to go and get him put to sleep because he was injured, and she let slip that he got hit by a car out the front of their house, and they never told the kids. And it was like, okay, and it's just that, you know, whenever that dog got hit by the car, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
Yep.
But that's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And
now I'm like, what else don't I know?
Yeah. Hey, I feel like that if there's time to deploy a lie, you don't want to tell a child. So, you know your best friend Rabbit, he was torn apart by dogs. No.
Still scarred.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think that was good. I think it might be a good way to kind of wrap things up, unless you've got anything else.
I think this is a topic I would like to revisit in a little while, because like I feel like we got to this. There's more here.
There is, but I thought that was good.
Yeah,
I'm glad we decided to talk about it, because I think it was an interesting chat. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to get back to it. And I would love to also hear any listeners' thoughts as well and that sort of thing. You know, it's such a like volatile subject, I think, in a lot of ways. You know, and I feel like people have strong feelings about it. You know,
it's fraught.
It is. It is. But yeah. But let's turn from lies to joy, shall we?
That was on a silver platter. Good job.
Right. Oh yeah. What a transition, even if I do say so myself. So what's been bringing you joy this week?
So it was, I don't know if I'm sure it was for you too. It's the same all over the world. It was summer solstice.
Yeah.
So on Thursday, and I had a friend visiting from San Francisco who's super into astrology and was like, it's solstice, it's full moon. So we had like a whole like solstice day where we just like were in the sun and like, you know, splashing around the pool and listening to music and taking walks. And then the area that we live, there's no like street lights or anything, so it gets dark. So we just sat out and watched the stars come out and the full moon, and the bats came out, and we just put a new pool light in. So it's like purple pool, and you could see the bats like flying down and like skimming and like getting a little drink of water, like eating a bug, and it was lovely. So that
sounds cool.
Yeah, it was nice. Happy solstice.
I love it. Yeah, happy solstice indeed.
It's gonna start getting dark.
I know. We're gonna have to deal with 10 p.m.
I know, right?
Darkness in a week or two. Ugh, gross. So like this over the past week, I guess I have been two different things. So like they're both kind of shows, but I want to talk to them about them. So one is one's a movie, one's a show, but one is an anime I've started watching called Delicious in Dungeon, which I've only seen a few episodes. I love it already. It's essentially, the setup is that it's a kind of adventuring party that I keep going into this dungeon. Delicious in Dungeon. And it's about this adventuring party that need to go on an adventure into this dungeon, but they have no money, so they decide what they're going to do is fight and cook monsters, and that is it. And you know, I love food, and the whole thing is so funny. They meet this dwarf who's like an expert in cooking monsters, and like he just kind of like then they just go on this adventure together, and it's like it's a comedy, you know. It's a funny sort of anime, but it just immediately was just like it hit me perfectly. It was exactly the sort of thing that I kind of love, you know. It just tickled me immediately. Sorry.
No, I was laughing.
Okay, so the next one was
you're like cooking and eating monsters. You know I love eating and food. Right? It's like you.
and this is the thing. This is why it does so well, because like one of the parties like this is horrifying. Why are you doing this? And everybody else is like, actually, this is really good. It's very well done. It's very funny.
Okay.
The other one was, and I might have talked to you about this before, was I rewatched Godzilla -1 during the week there, and I love that movie so much. One of our listeners had been talking about rewatching or watching it for the first time and loving it, and I rewatched it and just I don't know. It's like, you know, I've heard some dissenting views, some people who don't like it, but to me, it's kind of really incredible that they managed to have something that is both, like, it's very much about post-war Japan, and it's about grief, and it's about guilt, and like it really hits those themes hard and well, but also really satisfying as like a big monster movie, you know. And like I feel like marrying those two things together is very, very difficult, and they did such a good job with it. It's just it feels like a kind of minor wonder, honestly, that they kind of put those things together in such a kind of neat way. But yeah, it was excellent.
I don't think I've ever seen it, so I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah, it only came out like late last year, so like it's a real good one. Like, and I you know, and I compare this, as I think I may have mentioned this to you before, like this, you know, this has some great, I guess I say action, but like great sort of like human moments as well. Whereas like the most recent Hollywood Godzilla movie had Godzilla suplexing King Kong onto a pyramid, you know. So they're very different things, right?
Like in Egypt?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Like, don't get me wrong, like, that ruled.
Eye rolling with my voice.
Like, that was probably the best bit of that movie.
Did he do it with his giant fake arm?
Basically, no, yes, he did have his giant fake arm in that.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
So yeah, great fun.
So good.
But yeah, so that's what's been bringing me joy this week. But yeah, so I think we're all done. Beth, do you want to let people know where they can find us?
Yes. So please check out our merch. And if you want to let us know what your thoughts on Lang are, we've got a comment page on the website. You can find us at bendypodcast.com. And as always, we love hearing from our listeners. So feedback is awesome. Definitely. For those of you who choose to.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, thank you for joining us all, as always. So we would like to remind you, as always, to stay Bendy. Flawless.
I think I won. Flawless. I always think of you with your space buns. Gorgeous.
Exactly. All right. We love you, everyone.
Love you. Bye, bye, bye.